You guys all ready? Okay. I'd like to call our Finance and Audit meeting for November 8th, 2024 to order at 8:32 a.m. We have all members present except for Carolyn. We have minutes for approval. I'll entertain a motion. Brian and Teresa, any questions or concerns? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Public comments? Anyone?
None? Last call?
No? All right. Member comments? I just have one. I would really like to thank Teresa and Kelly for your time spent on finance. I will miss you and I wish you the best. And for the other members, if you so desire to be on finance again and I'm here, then we'll have some more fun for another couple of years in it. You've not enjoyed it, then go find another company. Yeah, right. Okay, anyone else?
I'd like to reiterate what you said regarding Kelly and Tracy. Guys, thank you for your hard work over these years, and there's always opportunities ahead. You've got a great skill set and some great experience, so good luck to you.
Okay, Carolyn joined us. We'll go on to routine consent agenda. Are there items that members would like to remove? I have number 24.
I do too. And then 713, actually 713, the only reason for that is in year 5 of the numbers, I think they're missing a 7. It says 5,000 instead of, I think they meant 75,000.
It's for 1 month only.
Oh, it's for 1 month only? Okay, well then that's my answer.
Okay,
So just 22.
just 24? Okay.
24 and 22.
I'm sorry, what was that?
22, you said?
And 22, okay. Are there any others? If not, then I'll entertain a motion to approve routine consent agenda minus items 22 and 24. Kelly?
Oh.
Teresa seconds?
Last.
Okay, not a problem.
Tara.
Go to vote. Brian?
Yes.
Terry?
Yes.
Carolyn?
Yes.
Teresa?
Yes.
Kelly?
Yes.
Larry?
Yes.
And myself, yes. Okay, motion carries. We are on to item 22. I'll entertain a motion. Teresa? Brian? Carolyn, you want to pull this one?
Yeah, just real quickly, because I don't have anything in front of me now. I think I was just wondering about, like, is this the bridge program that you have in your transportation plan? I mean, nothing was listed in terms of the bridges that would be covered here that I saw in ours.
Correct. This is the project manager contract, so it's not bridge specific.
Okay. Okay. So that's why.
Yeah, 5-year engineering contract to have a project manager manage bridge projects for the county.
Okay. All right.
Anything else? Ready?
Thank you.
Okay, we'll go to vote then. Terry?
Yes.
Carolyn?
Yes.
Teresa?
Yes.
Kelly?
Yes.
Larry?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Motion carries. We're on to item 24. I'll entertain a motion. Teresa and Brian. Go ahead, Carolyn. I'll let you go first.
For there, it was just kind of explaining the subdivision roads versus private.
Yeah, this resolution came out of TC in which there was a request to have a resolution that would fund the roads that did not get included into the county's NSR, the private road maintenance program, a 1-year, one-time funding to give them an opportunity since they were not included in this program because the roads were determined to be not private. And it's a private road maintenance program. So we pulled this together based on their request and have this type of funding available to these subdivisions for this one time. It is a match for the county and the townships, as well as the residents have a cost share to a degree as well.
Okay, so in the description, not the resolution, when it talks about this is a one-time reimbursement program is a means to provide a 1-year, no. as they are found to not be private roads, or they are private
They were
roads?
found not to be private roads.
Okay.
Just to clarify for you, Caroline,
Thank you.
they previously were kind of defined as private, but the county's been doing a phenomenal job in going back and looking at other records and updating what we have currently available to us. And they've discovered in the interim that some of those roads that were previously considered private by the townships really are not. And that's why we wanted to do this one-time program, is now to clean that up and clarify it to everyone. So there's a little bit of a lag that we're trying to accommodate some of these roads. Does that make sense?
We did that extra study at the request of the townships.
Thank you, yeah.
Yeah, and that's what I kind of figured it was, except I guess I was getting, I don't know, I was getting thrown off between a non-dedicated subdivision road and private road and that sort of thing. That was all.
It is a very complicated process, for sure.
The reason why I pulled is because there was a lengthy discussion. I did have to leave before the discussion ended, but pertaining to all this, and I will just, so two things for the committee. There's another resolution that will be on new and unfinished business that ends this program completely. But that didn't come through here because it's not money related. So there will be another resolution that ends that permanently, this program permanently. And the other thing is I guess I should, for this committee's purpose, I mean, Brian was there and he heard the presentation, but there are some, there is not agreement amongst the townships, the county, and the homeowners about what is considered private or not. So, and just to be clear, there is a lot of, I'll say, ambiguity in what, I mean, I know from our state's attorney's office there isn't, but from other people there is. And so the discussion at the committee level was, basically these residents were planning on doing work over the summer, and then were told by what should have been told by the townships that they were no longer in the program. And so these residents already, in some cases, even spent some money, even though they shouldn't have, to do work. And so the committee, the discussion was that we felt like, hey, we kind of, abruptly ended the program without giving them really any notice. So we kind of felt like it was, and it wasn't that much money, so it was a situation. And again, it still may not get done just because the townships have to have the money to match. So if they don't have the money to match, then it still doesn't go anywhere. But the committee discussion was that we felt it was important to try and make them whole for a year, just to, so that theoretically they would be aware of the fact that, and if this other resolution passes, that the program's no longer going to exist under any situation. So I pulled it for all that information purposes, basically. I don't know, Brian, if you want to add anything, because I left early, so.
Yeah, thank you. I do want to say that there has been a lot of discussion about this, and we've received a lot of comments from residents about their concerns that they were determined not to be non-dedicated roads for a variety of reasons. And due to the timeline of notification, the parties that were involved in the notification, and frankly, some less than timely and complete communication by all parties, these individuals were kind of left in the lurch. And they had, I think, a reasonable expectation here. And so we're trying to make that whole in one way. But I also will say that on an individual basis, I just don't agree with the concept if they are private roads, they're private roads, and those residents knew that they were private roads, and they have a responsibility then to take care of the private roads. In a municipality, we don't accept private roads, even though they want us to because maintenance costs are high. But if they get benefits up front, whether they don't have to built to standards. They don't necessarily have to have, obviously, sidewalks, so they don't have to have curb and gutter, all those types of things that then are passed on as a savings to the buyers. And so now you can't come back to the trough, as it were. And it kind of opens Pandora's box. And truly, in my mind, that's exactly what's happened. So this is, let's make them whole this year. Then from next fiscal year on, the program is over, but we have, that's another resolution, as Mike is saying. So I think this is the right one.
Any other questions? Okay, if not, then we'll go to vote. Carolyn?
Yes.
Teresa?
Yes.
Kelly?
Yes.
Larry?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Terry?
Yes.
And myself, yes. Okay, motion carries. We are on to 9.1, mental health sales tax revenue discussion. So I asked this to be added to the agenda. You know, there's, I'm sure county board members have seen a lot of information going back and forth, and there hasn't really been a public discussion of the situation, and I felt it was important that we have a discussion to first figure out, you know, theoretically what happened and why the situation is the way it is. And again, it's not to, you know, it's not to berate anybody, it's just to, you know, figure out what happened, and again, if something like this were to come up again, how we can make sure that this kind of situation doesn't happen again in the future. And then talk a little bit about revenues coming in and what we see is a long-term positive, but how we can kind of bridge the gap between long-term positive and where we find ourselves right now. So that was the objective, and I shared that with them so they could be prepared for all that. So I don't know who's going first or.
Well, I guess I'll just, you know, I'll start out and we'll hopefully mostly here to answer questions, but I do want to, you know, acknowledge there was an air meeting. And when we put our frequently asked questions up on the web, we tied this 33-page matrix of sales tax to the website, and this was the wrong thing to put on there. We should have put on this long. Made an error. No one caught it. Not us, not our attorneys, not the mental health attorneys, not the mental health staff, no one in the public. It's weird. It doesn't make sense in some respects because you have this law that we're looking at covering how we get our $0.25 for RTA and our $0.25 for sales in municipalities, and we tried to back that down and be conservative, and we kind of had that singular lens, and that's how we were looking at it. The referendum enabling law, which I think is about 25 years old, initially was just for transportation. It was enlarged to then include public safety. It was enlarged to then include mental health. For whatever reason, perhaps it's the automobile sales lobby or whatever, licensed vehicles are excluded from that tool. It's that simple. And that is going to amount to roughly $2 million for us. But as you said, I think we're still in a better place for several reasons. We can expect, with the 5-month overlap right now of 5 months of sales tax, along with $5 million coming in, well, $5.5 million coming in September for distribution. Over the next 24 months, we're going to get about $24 million into mental health. Probably a little bit more. So we're going to finish mental health fiscal year 24 with a fund balance of a little over $11 million. And I think with some thoughtful planning and, you know, some maybe resetting of expectations, we can still be in a better place over the next several years. One of the fundamental changes now is that we're going to have to take a look, when I say we, the mental health board and their staff, are going to have to take a different look at fund balance and fund balance requirements. Forever, since the creation of mental health board, they get 2 installments a year, June and September. aside from grants and such, so that's their main source of income. Now they're going to be on a month after month after month after month after month source of revenue. And that's going to free them up, I think, to be a little bit more nimble and maybe decrease the amount of money they need. Let's remember what I just said. They're going to have an $11+ million fund balance at the end of this year. That's nearly 100% fund balance. It doesn't need to be that way. So Carrie and I met with Connie and their attorneys on Wednesday evening and kind of started to talk through this. And it's clear that there was still some misunderstanding on how these levies are going to work and timing of fund balances. And it was a really healthy discussion, and I thank Connie for pulling us together. We've committed to working with the mental health board staff and their attorneys and doing some multi-year projections now over the next coming months, and kind of getting together in the early spring and really level setting what we can do over the next several years. And I think we're going to be in a good place. I feel as though, and I think most of you would agree, that the past practice of this annual ask for more and more property tax wasn't sustainable and wasn't going to meet what mental health board wanted. I mean, that was clear, and it's not going to be that way anymore. We're going to have a very steady, growing amount of money. And Connie can correct me, their budget for next year is largely intact, and they can do that again next year. They can do that again next year. So they're in good shape. And again, it's about managing expectations, maybe resetting expectations a little bit, but long term, I think we're all in a better place. They're going to be more autonomous, and they're going to have a more predictable, steady stream of revenue.
Before we, do you guys have, either of you have anything to say?
I think we covered it well.
Okay, that's fine. Do either of you have anything you guys want to say? I mean,
Can they come?
yeah, you can come up here if you want.
I think since we're talking about
Sure.
that, I think they should have a seat at the table.
No, I don't have any problem with that at all.
You might need to bring a chair, though. Bring your own chair.
BYOC.
I've got a chair for you. I got it.
Thanks for coming, by the way.
Yeah. Thanks for being here. Sure, I'll start.
Why don't you introduce yourself just so that
I'm
everyone...
Lindsay Keisman. I'm the treasurer for the Mental Health Board.
I'm Connie Machini. I'm the president of the Mental Health Board.
Do apologize, our fiscal operations manager is out on a leave of absence with double knee replacement surgery. So if there's really, really detailed questions, I'll be happy to get back to you, but I have some information I wanted to share that was presented at our open meeting this past Tuesday that had our revised budget along with our fund balance information. I did bring pieces of paper if you guys want to see these numbers, if that's easier for you.
Yep.
So I'll speak to our fund balance situation because as Pete mentioned, there is opportunity in our fund balance, and that's exactly what we utilized this allocation cycle to make sure that we didn't do a reduction in services. We had hoped to increase services, as I know you are all aware, and we were able to look at a handful of new agencies and funded programs, but keeping in mind that we had to pull from our fund balance, we went ahead and tried to keep everybody where they were at least this fiscal year if they came back so that we could maintain the programs that were there. So the numbers that are in front of you, look at the fund balance, the $7 million number at the top, look at the fund balance as it ended for last fiscal year. We have some problems giving exact numbers until things come back at the full end of this fiscal year, but these are the preliminary numbers of where we believe our fund balance would be, that $6,562,000 number. We also put in the estimated 5 months overlap dollars. We did use that $805,000 number, which was the July payout. That's the only number we have. We hope that number will go up.
We have the second year.
Oh, okay, I didn't have that information, but that's what we based it on, just so you know where we get that 4 million number. So that was the rough estimate of what might come in with those overlap dollars, leaving us with a anticipated fund balance of $10,588,000. And then we do currently have a 5-month reserve policy, and that was something our board was planning on looking at in kind of the first quarter of next year if that policy was going to be revised. But that is where it is currently. So our available number of dollars of utilization before fund balance 2025 is $5,000,004. You'll see that we ended up on the right-hand corner, we ended up putting $1.9 million of fund balance into our budget for fiscal year 25 to hit the needs. We also did some reductions in our administrative budget, which we discussed at this week's meeting, to bring everything down. One of the pluses of that is that, we're trying to do everything based on current utilization. One of the negatives of that is that sometimes the money that we can move around to help with things like independent contractor agreements that we sometimes do with certain agencies. So there might be an impact there. So with those rough numbers, we see ourselves potentially being at a $3.5 million fund balance going into the end of next year, making the assumption that we use all 1.9 million that we put in. And every year, typically some of that money does come back. It's usually around a couple $100,000. And that is because of the way some of our funded agencies, they anticipate the costs that they're gonna do, and we audit that along the way. And then those monies get returned usually at the mid-year, and then we do another audit at the end of the cycle, and some of those dollars get returned to us. So usually we never hit that number.
We also use our fund balance for people that go over, or agencies that go over and exceed what they said they're gonna do, because they're serving more people.
I know there was some questions about how money within the fiscal year that's allocated that doesn't get used. So as a reminder, we have 3 typical ways we fund people: purchase of position, a grant, and fee for service. So our purchase of positions, we do audits in the mid-year. So really, easy example, we want to hire somebody. We didn't hire them until 4 months in. We claw that money back because we know they didn't need the salary for that. For fee for service, they usually get the whole cycle, but if it looks like they know as an agency, hey, we're not going to use all these dollars, we work collaboratively with them, and we sometimes claw back those dollars. For grant dollars, they have the year to use them. So unfortunately, those dollars would never get used in a current year cycle as a way to fund something if we could. It gets put back into the fund balance, which really means that any of those dollars won't get allocated into the next fiscal year because we had to set our budget already earlier in the year. So any of those unused dollars usually end up in fund balance reserves, of which we have been putting into our budget, which was of concern for us. As you know, that's what we were talking about with the property tax concerns. So I'll stop there if anybody has questions about the fund balance.
And the problem with fund balance is you never know. You really don't know how much is going to come back and how much extra you're going to use, because an agency served a heck of a lot more people than they said that was in their contract, and we try to fund them, give them some money for that. So we do give out fund balance during the year.
So just to be clear, if there's money that you have granted out or dedicated to a certain organization and they don't use it, you put it in the fund balance, it sits there for 1 year, and then it gets put in the pool for the next year's grant money.
It gets put at the fund balance pool. So our practice, and I think it will have to be our practice until the sales tax revenue is able to reach where we were at, is that we are still going to be heavily reliant on putting fund balance dollars in there. So when we're in a, abundance, it's not a problem if we put $1.9 million in there, but there will be a year where those dollars will be in fund balance, but we couldn't have counted on them to budget it in that budget cycle, which probably will be a 2 to 3 year mark if we remain kind of flat as far as not increasing service dollars for the agencies.
I think that we project that we will have an issue, probably when you get out a couple of years. There will be an issue, there'll be a shortfall. And because fund balance, you cannot, yes, right now we have it, we're okay, but you can't count on it. And how much are we gonna give out of fund balance? Because they exceeded, and we wanna encourage them to exceed to serve more people. And how much are we gonna have? And it's not a steady thing that we can count on. I mean, if we gave, this is how I see it, if we gave it out to a new program, and then we didn't get fund balance next year, and if we didn't have enough to fund them and everybody else, then we have to say that program's done. So we try to have a little bit of cushion there, because you don't want to give out something that you can't maintain. I mean, the parents, the community, everybody would be really upset if we can't maintain what we said.
I think we haven't crafted a plan, and Pete's right, I think this is gonna be a collaborative conversation. We just simply haven't had the time, to be honest. But with what it looks like today, I would anticipate that we're probably going to be doing some slight pruning every year, because we don't want to have a year with a major, reduction in the services that we provide. It will certainly limit new service providers, which it absolutely did this year. We had some great new services that we thought we were going to be able to fund in our original plan. And that was something, our board chose not to do, because maintaining to the best of our ability is what we want to do. And at a bare bones minimum, some of the people we've, funded for a long time, we're hoping to give them, an opportunity to look at what this will look like, because I don't think that we can say with confidence that we're going to be able to sustain the numbers that we did this round. Maybe next round, no doubt, but the second or third year from now seems a little unclear at this point.
And we're really working with the agencies to be more accurate. Way back when, it was like you'd say, I'm gonna serve 20 and this, I'm making it simple, and this is the money I need. And they served maybe 15. They're really narrowing it down to be pretty darn accurate. And so that limits fund balance.
What is your fiscal year right now?
Our fund balance?
No, your fiscal year. When does it start?
December 1st.
Okay.
Oh, for the county, yeah.
Well-
Everyone, for you guys, it's December 1st. We
Yeah.
have a state year and we have a federal year, so they're different.
We do our allocation process early, so we have to set our budget in March and April is usually when we have our, budget set, because that's what we base the applications on. So the applications are all expected to be in by July. We have to make our allocation decisions in October, and we have different special meetings for people to come and present in September and October, so that we can have this all done. So for us, budget setting is on a different schedule than you. We will be coming back in January having to look into this so that we know what we're going to have as opportunities and can present in our finance committee, and then for the board for final approval no later than April.
Is there any reasons statutorily that you can't change your fiscal year?
I don't know the answer to that.
I don't know the answer to that either. It's always been your fiscal year, that's what we go by, because our money's coming from you, basically. If we, in the past, I can only talk about the past.
Right.
If we got a federal grant, then our year was October to September 30th, because that's how they want us to report it, okay? But most of our money comes from the county, so we're on the county fiscal year.
Well, and I guess that might be something, as you're looking at your budget policy, that might be something, and again, I don't know the answer to that, that's why I'm asking, but, similar to kind of what we did with the Conservation District, you know, we kind of shifted things around with them because it was just, you know, they had to start their budget year before we would even approve their dollars, you know, and so it was ass backwards, to be blunt, right? So, you know, and I'm not saying you should change yours, but, you know, if that's something that would help, if you can, and it's something that would help your process, you know, that might be something where you can do a short year and then, you know, start on a new process. And because again, you're relatively speaking independent of us now. I mean, you're getting, I mean, we're collecting the sales tax, but we're just flushing it right through to you. So there is no reliance theoretically on the county anymore. So that gives you the autonomy to be able to kind of do what you need to do in order to function at a better level, so.
Okay, thank you. So, did I hear correctly that you're paring down administrative services? I mean, administrative costs too?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yes,
So
we did a
making
massive
sure-
reduction. of
Are you
that.
losing staff?
Massive rejection.
No, we're not losing staff.
We're not doing remodeling of the bathrooms that have to be ADA compliant. We took that out for this year. We're not doing as much training as we had planned to do. I mean,
We're one of our strategic initiatives was to try to get the word out, because that's part of the community assessment. And we had to cut our marketing and advertising budget in half, which
mileage,
we did a lot of things. In that same packet, there's a list of the things that we changed in our administrative budget. Subscriptions, buildings and grounds maintenance, meeting expenses, different technology, things that were, you know, recommended upgrades, but
Yeah.
we're
Yeah,
postponing.
We did what we could in our administrative, but no staff.
No staff.
In
And
fact,
when you
we
talk about
talked-
training, is that training the staff or is that the
No, training when
hot
we
sheet
offer
that
to
you
the
send out?
county.
Okay.
Training that we offer to the county
Even
professionals
bringing in
and
speakers
members.
and stuff like that. I mean, when we offer training that you get on the hot sheet,
Yeah,
we have to pay those trainers.
and
They don't come
that's,
for nothing.
and people get credits for those trainings
Right,
too,
right. They
so.
get credit, CEUs, IODAPCA gives credit, so yeah, right. And so there's a lot of training that we do that all the agencies and everyone in the county really, really does appreciate the mental health training. I mean, I know I do. I go to quite a few of them.
Okay, so then moving on to the allocations, before the budget was decreased, before the mental health sales tax came back, it was estimated that the asks were 5 million over your original budget, is that right?
Yes.
Okay, so then, because you had to pare that down, how much were the asks?
As we're 16 million.
And you?
As far as all the grants or all the applications that came in?
Yeah.
Yeah, 16 million.
Okay, and how much did you give out?
Well,
Or did you?
Just around
9.
a little bit, yeah, like upper 9 or 10. I'm sorry, I don't have the number
That's
right
I
in
don't have
front
it
of
right in
me.
front of me either.
Okay,
It was similar to what we did this year.
okay, that's what I thought, all right. And then so the property tax the sales tax that's coming in, I was told, is this correct, that in order to get at the amount that you're funded now by the county property tax, it would take till 2028 for you to be whole, just to get to where we are now. So there's no growth.
As far as if the property tax stays at what we got. And in Governor Pritzker's announcement on his management, he says that sales tax is gonna go down. And I have, if anybody wants it, I have it.
Honey.
So basically, needs are going up, asks are going up, and you're getting a reduction of funding. And I know there's a fund balance, but we see that there's variability of it. We see that you're going to need it to even flat fund these organizations that are asking now. I realize it was a calculation error, and I apologize on behalf of everybody. It was definitely not meant, and I'm sure you've heard that before. But I think it's our responsibility to help the mental health board at least make them whole and come up to the amount that they were getting on property taxes until 2028. And I know that we cannot give the mental health board a chunk of money. And when it comes to, I'm looking at ARPA. I'm looking at ARPA funds. And we will talk about ARPA funds later. But in my opinion, we should be giving them some money out of ARPA, but we can't. So the county takes, I think I estimated it here, it was over $600,000 that you guys are giving back to the county for the specialty courts and the social work program.
The specialty courts, the police program, social worker, we give back to the county quite a few.
Like
We
600
fund a lot of those programs.
So 630,000, I think is what I calculated. I was watching your meeting from that, because you increased it. And this is probably not going to be a popular opinion. I think we should take ARPA money that we have now and fund those programs that they were going to get by the mental health board. So the mental health board does not out this 600,000. And then our county will be funding those programs for a while, so they can make sure that they fund the needs in the county. And that way we are giving the ARPA funds to a specific program here in the county. It's not just giving them to the board. So it's kind of replacing the money. Just want to throw that out there. I just think we need to fix an error that we created.
Real quick, before you go, what was, you said you got August number, what was August number?
It was up to.
Oh, slightly, 807.
Yeah.
807, okay.
Regarding ARPA, and I'll be quick. We're gonna kind of talk about resetting ARPA next month. We're gonna talk about it a little bit today, but we'll take the actions next month. So in terms of how those dollars might be used, we can explore that a little bit with Bronner. I also just want to caution, we have 2 months in now. I don't think it's going to take 4 years to get to 10.9 million. I think it's going to take about 36 months to get back to where we were. And I truly believe, and I think with Carrie's guidance, we can keep them intact. I think we're already seeing a bit of a, I think, over-conservative approach here on the sales tax that are coming in. But to your point, if we want to look at how we could use ARPA in a different way, we can do that in the next several weeks. So we're going to make those final adjustments on which buckets the ARPA dollars sit in before we get into fiscal 25.
Can I just stop you though? So these would fall into revenue replacement. And so there's two things to consider with ARPA. We have to fit them into the US Treasury expense categories. So these, I'm guessing, just would not fit into a COVID type expense category. So then we would have to put them into revenue replacement, which we're already overspent. So using our ARPA allocation for this, I don't think would be an option, but we do have ARPA interest. So when you say ARPA, I think we would have to look at that, the interest.
Yeah, we have more than $1 million interest, but why, how could that not, I guess I don't understand why it would have to go into revenue replacement, because if we're funding a program, just like the public health department is funding programs and granting out things.
Correct, but it has to fall within the guidelines of ARPA, so helping to prevent, or how we can be more prepared if there's another pandemic. So a lot of, like the remodel, we've talked about, you know, this will help social distancing, and you know, the health department is a little bit easier because they have programs.
Remember, revenue replacement was our flexible money.
Yes.
We've overspent that.
Yes.
We can't add
We have overspent.
further to that.
Okay, I get it. I still think we should. So what concerns me, and I understand what you're saying, and I think both of you really believe what you're saying, but I think we need to come to an agreement on what the actual numbers are.
I agree, and that's our commitment. I mean, real simple, back of the napkin, they're going to get in over $10 million in sales tax in the next 12 months. we're also gonna get over $4 million in effectively the overlap tax. Spread that 4 million over 4 years on top of 10.1, 10.2 that they're gonna get in sales tax. That's gonna go to 10.4, that's gonna go to 10.8, that's gonna go to 11.2. Layer that extra $4 million on top of that, coupled with a different approach to fund balance, because they don't need to sit on as much money as they did. I think we can work with everything this morning. And I really appreciate the opportunity to work with these guys on that. Because I think we've kind of been shackled by the old way of looking at things. We've got, there's gonna be $24 million coming in the next 2 years.
So just taking the conservative, I did 3.2 years because I was just doing the math. So I don't quite think the 4 years, but you know, I do think probably 3.2, 3.5.
Yeah,
So what are you basing that on?
Based on what the tax revenue is that's coming in. And
based on the growth of the same tax over the past 3 years, if you just project it out.
Well, but I mean, I'm asking what you're using. So if you look at the last 3 years that came in from DOR, right? So the last, as of 2024, was 9.6 million, right? I'm just asking because I'm just trying to get clarification, right? So they gave us 3 years, that's all they estimated. So from 22 to 23, it was a 2.7% growth in revenue. From 23 to 24, it was a 3.47% growth. So there's going to be some compounding. I think this is where it gets complicated in my mind, because if you use a flat rate, I think it takes a long time. If you just do 3% year over year, you are talking 2028, 2029.
Sales tax this last year for the state was about 3.5. In the same report that Connie referenced, it references 3.5. The governor's reports on sales tax being limited are related to how the state is using the sales tax and some of the state's adjustments and mandates they put on themselves. The base sales tax is going to go up. And remember, our state is declining in population, so we're looking statewide, we're seeing a little bit of a depression in the sales tax. Our county's not declining in population.
I didn't anticipate any increase in sales tax. I just took the numbers flat from what 2 months worth, which again isn't to me enough data to really project out, but it's all we have. So I just took the 2 months and extrapolated it out, and I got 3.2 years. So.
Well, because the reason I say that, I mean, because I know we don't have, in terms of monthly, we don't have the numbers, right? That's what I keep hearing, but we do have
The last 3 years.
The last 3 years, and so that I think is a reasonable number to be starting with in terms of starting with that 9.6 and trying to get some kind of handle on how much is that going to grow. So I do get that things will change over time. What I'm hearing is a commitment from administration that, you know, if we could utilize that fund balance a little bit more aggressively, I think if there was a confidence that we would be there for you going forward, or the county would be there for you going forward, you might have better, you know, more confidence in using that 5 million balance so that you knew, let's fund these programs now, make sure we're taking care of what we're supposed to be doing. In the meantime, we'll watch this, see how this is playing out, utilize that appropriately based on conversations with Carrie. And if we're starting to see that, okay, we're not getting where we need to be, then in the meantime, we can be investigating revenue streams that could be directed your way. But we would have to make adjustments in order for that to happen, I think. And it's not going to happen this year. We got to get through our budget. So, right, so I think that maybe that gives us time to just.
I agree with you. I think what we're trying to, at least what I'm trying to do for the board, is we want to let you know there is an issue at some point in time. What Peter's saying is, yes, this year will be okay, and maybe next year, because from our fund balance. But at some point.
You control that, Connie.
Huh?
So you control the future.
I control the future. You know how the board does? I don't know.
Well,
because all we'll be getting is the sales tax, and if we get a little bit, if we spend our fund balance, I need to check. It's like you're spending your savings account. There is no more.
No, but I think what Pete's trying to say is you're controlling what goes out, right?
Oh, sure.
So
yeah,
you control the outflow. So, and again, your job is to outflow that money to the providers so that they provide the services, right? But ultimately, you're controlling the outflow. You don't control the money coming in, because that's gonna be kind of set on what's going on, but you can control the outflow. So, and I think that's, the rub here is, there was an anticipation by, I think, everybody, providers, mental health board, county board, that we were able to spend more and do more, and that was the whole point of why we all thought this was a great idea, right? So I think the disappointing part is the fact that the revenue stream isn't as high as we had all hoped, wanted, thought, whatever the case may be. And so expectation-wise, you know, it's an adjustment that no one wants to admit to, right? Because you know, we all have passion and care for the people that need the services, right? So that's the frustrating part. But I agree with Carolyn. I think that, you know, we got to get some data together, and as long as the county's willing to work with you, and by all means, I mean, I think, you know, whether I'm chair of finance or not, whoever it is should be more than welcome to have these kind of meetings to have discussions, right? I mean, that's, you know, just because you're not theoretically under our property tax anymore doesn't mean we don't care and have a compassion for the job that you're doing and the work that you're doing, and naturally we want you guys to be as successful also, because it's the people that we're serving. We're all trying to serve, right? So I mean, you know, it's not like it's, oh well, how you know, I look at it as a child, right? You know, once your child leaves the house, it's not like you say, oh screw you, you know, I don't care about you anymore. You know, it's you know, you still have a love for them. So. My two thoughts were, you had your hand up.
Yeah, so realizing that this is a big paradigm shift. You know, you've gone from one basis to another basis in your revenue. To a couple of things, to remember that we are in the depths of a very serious recession. It really impacts sales tax. So if this is as bad as it gets, you know, we come out of this, it could be golden. And the flip side of that is much greater than what you were on previously. The other aspect of it, and I wanted to ask this, is let's say that you were, I don't know, 2 or 3 years down the road, and you're like, this is not what we want for our service and our revenue. Is there anything to prohibit the mental health board from going to referendum to increase sales tax again?
I'm sorry, I'm definitely.
Is there anything to prevent the mental health board from going to referendum to increase sales tax more, what you're getting in sales tax?
I don't know the answer.
I think that would be a county board decision.
But I mean, they could make that request. That would be one revenue possibility. I'm just wondering, are there restrictions on how frequently you can go to
I
referendum?
think there are restrictions, but I think if we wait a little bit, we could do it again. Again, it would be a county board decision.
And
I
again,
had
if
some of
this
this
turned out
conversation
to
with Leonetta. You know, you talk about a half cent for mental health. We're talking about over $20 million a year then. 22 million.
Who says you got to go up by 25 cents? Can't you go up by 10 cents or something?
Statute says 0.25% increases.
Well,
Oh,
Right.
okay. Well, I'm sorry, are you, okay.
I think Teresa.
Brian was next though, so go ahead. I mean, Brian.
It's fine.
Oh, whatever. Someone.
All right, so, I mean, I feel like I'd be remiss not to say there were dissenters to pushing the sales tax through so quickly. I don't think it's worthwhile to ask, but I'm gonna say anyways. This didn't come from the mental health board. The original referendum came from who? To your
County.
You guys decided that, yeah.
But it passed through you before it passed through us. So I was wondering who brought it to your board's attention?
Okay.
You all did.
You guys
It wasn't
did.
us though.
We
Yeah, it was
Yes,
us.
it was.
Because they used,
Yes, it was.
we used their passing of it as a reason for why we should pass the referendum.
No.
No, we didn't.
So it originated when we were requesting the large increase of
Right.
property tax. One of the outcomes somewhere is somebody researched the sales tax as a reasonable alternative.
Right.
And there was discussion about, referendum, which comes from you all.
Right.
And then that was proposed to us and it was asked to be brought to our board to make sure we were in alignment with
Right.
moving from property tax to sales tax. I do believe at that time we had asked about the half cent instead of the quarter, but I believe we thought it wasn't
were
going to
told-
pass that way.
We were told it was.
I know, and I do know it came from public comment, which is but we tried to claim it was coming from them in last December. And I even asked Leo or Ms. Rizzi, was there any concern at their board meeting about this, right? In any case,
We were told though, that it would be between 12 and 14 million.
I know what you're told, yeah.
And it wasn't, because vehicle tax was put in there, and we aren't part of the,
Right, no, yeah.
so, I mean, it's
Now-
less than we assumed.
The other thing I was gonna say is the Senior Service Grant Commission took a proposal that we would not give, Senior Service Grant Commission would no longer fund taxing bodies. And I actually have been surprised the last 2 years that you've continued to support a large taxing body, even though you've been concerned about funding your private agencies. So is that something that you're thinking that your board might start discussing as a policy issue?
I don't think there's been any discussion of policy. If there's been any discussion, it's been that we really believed in those programs.
Yeah.
And given the last minute nature of everything,
Yeah.
that was a consideration of
Yeah.
more of a creative conversation to go back with over the next year or two to see if that's something you could plan in your budget as a way for assistance. But we don't want to see those programs end, so there needs to be a reasonable solution to keep those sustained in the county. And our board's been committed to making sure that those programs exist. So more or less, it was a last minute option presented to us that none of us agreed with.
Okay.
Yeah, that we would throw it back at you guys, and all the programs for the county. That was an option.
Right.
I said no.
We won't do it, okay, well, so, I mean, because I think when there's discussion of what is the county gonna do for you in the future, I think it's somewhat disingenuous to say the county's gonna do anything for you in the future, other than give you Carrie's advice, maybe Donna's investment advice. I mean, I don't think you're ever gonna see money from the county again. And so when we say, well, we're gonna promise to support, the county's gonna promise to support them in the future, not with money, right? What money do we think that the county's gonna be able to pull from in the future?
Well, I think, I don't know that you can say that. I don't know if you can flat out say that statement. I can't predict what future boards are gonna do. we're gonna have new board members in,
True, right.
3 weeks or whatever it is. So I can't tell you what future boards are gonna wanna do.
And that's the problem. We can say we make a commitment to them to help them, but we don't know. We can't even we're having a hard time passing our own budget.
Yeah.
How are we going to say, well, we want to increase it by to help somebody else? I have a hard time, same with Teresa, saying we're gonna make a commitment to help you when we have people on our board who want to cut the budget by 3% and just
More.
standalone be 3%. And so, yeah,
all I'm saying, I'm not saying that what you're saying is not true.
Right.
I have no clue because I don't know what future boards are going to be doing.
Right, well, I'm not even what kind of revenue, let's look in the past, let's say, what revenue streams other than ARPA would be able to be funneled to the mental health board?
Well,
I guess that's a question for Carrie.
Well, I think every single year you look at your budget, right?
Yeah.
And every single year, board members have to make decisions on where money is spent, right?
Right.
So to me, if administration were to come to us and say, hey, this is what we're proposing, whatever that looks like,
Right.
the board can either accept it or reject it, right? Or modify it or whatever they want to do. But I don't think it's fair to be able to say, you're never going to see another dollar from the county board again. Or even if it's a replacement where, we start, paying for some of the, specialty courts.
Right.
I don't know what that looks like, but again, I think you can't say we're never going to do something because I can't tell you who's going to be here to
Right,
make
well,
that
I'm just
decision.
saying, at this moment, what revenue streams are there? Pam really wants to say something, because maybe she knows, yeah?
I'm right. I'm just sitting back here,
Yes.
listening. I mean, what I would say is you've got a commitment not only from staff, but obviously from the current finance chair, I'm assuming.
Former, there we go.
I'm assuming, you know, I mean, you're the one who sets the board. I'm assuming Mr. Scala will remain in this position. I mean, I see no reason not. But what I'm hearing is you have a commitment from the committee and you have a commitment from staff to continue to work on this. You only have 2 months of the revenues.
Right.
It's so early yet, you guys. I mean, we have no idea what's gonna happen. I think the commitment says, we're gonna be on this. We're not walking away from the mental health board. We recognize that there was an error made, wasn't done on purpose, it was a mistake. Let's say we've done that. We've made the commitment, they have 12 million that they can use right now, today, and let's just stay. We've improved the communication between the board and the mental health board. Let's move on and say we're gonna fix this. But it's too early to fix it because we don't know what we're dealing with yet. I mean, I just, you know, we keep just spewing the same stuff. We apologize, really, it was a mistake. It's still the best way to go rather than counting on the levy from the county board. It's better for you from an independent perspective, but let's move forward and just work together and continue to promise that we're gonna try and fix it the best way we can. But again, I don't think we have enough information to fix it today. The commitment's there. I'll be here for 2 years, I'll make the commitment. You know, but.
As chair of finance.
Oh, God, no.
Brian, go ahead.
Thank you. First off, I appreciate the conversation. I think it's very important. It's good that we're doing it now. So I have a great deal of appreciation for that. I also have a great deal of respect for the professionalism of both entities and the staff. I think we're all working very hard. Nobody wants to throw anybody away or, you know, the baby out with the bathwater proverbially. I think that we all want to work on pulling this together. And it's a good thing that we're talking now. I also thank you and have a great deal of respect, staff, for owning, you know, the error. It happened. It's one of those things. It does occur. It is confusing because from the RTA tax, titled property is not necessarily concerned there, but for municipalities and local governments, it is. And so it's a misreading sometimes of the statutes, and that's understandable because a lot of things can be misread by statutes because they're pretty vague in many instances. So it happened. I do think, though, that when we went into this conversation, all parties, we knew that there was risk. There was always risk when you were making huge transitional moves as we did. Do I ultimately believe that it was the right decision? Absolutely. I think it's the right decision. I think we're heading in the right direction. But it was a risk. I don't think anybody on the board, and I'm actually speaking for myself, but I believe that the general feeling and consensus was that we knew that in the transition there were risks and that we were not going to just put the mental health board out and say, too bad, so sad, we wash our hands of it. You know, we didn't take that type of attitude. I think everybody knew that we were willing to work with the mental health board to make sure that things were covered as they need to be. There are some advantages of this. And the first is, as Peter said, that there's a greater condition of cash flow right now that you all don't have to worry about, that you had to worry about constantly in the past. That's huge. Absolutely huge. I think the second thing is that, fortunately, you've been fiscally responsible as a mental health board and you have a healthy fund balance. It is a healthy balance. Yeah. Many organizations, institutions don't have anything near that. So pat yourself on the back and say that's good. And we respect and appreciate that. The purpose of a fund balance is to help cover in situations of catastrophe or uncertainty. This is a perfect example. It's the right thing to do to use fund balance. It can't be used forever, and you have to rebuild it, but that is the purpose of fund balance, and there's nothing wrong with using fund balance in this particular instance. In fact, it is a wise, fiscally responsible approach to be taken. The other thing that I think we have to consider, and I'm very adamant about this, and I've said this to colleagues who contacted me, that we, as colleague Greeno said, this is 1 month. 2 months now, and these frankly are the lowest months of sales tax revenues. July especially, historically the lowest, we know that. So let's not go, Southern Illinois words, giddy boo here on this, because it's gonna work its way out and we're going to move forward. And I believe firmly, as an economist, in the growth of this county and in the growth of our economy overall as a nation. And we are going to grow. I fall in Peter's camp. I think that 36 months, 3 years, maybe just a bit more, Mike, but we're going to be there where we need to be, and we're going to realize that growth and that benefit. So I think that we're going to be there. Are there some things that we can do in the middle? First, I would ask you what your investment portfolio is like. Is it a solid portfolio? Are you bringing money in that is significant? We found, I think, credit where credit is due. Treasurer Hertz has done a huge job of helping to improve our investment portfolio and moving us in the right direction. And I would suggest that's one thing that we really need to do, is to work on that investment portfolio. And I think Treasurer Hertz would be happy to help.
We already considered that.
Yeah, we considered it, met with her, and we're willing to do that. And then we realized, well, we might need it over here. Better not invest. We can't.
Well, but again, it's a healthy fund balance. I think you've got room to invest in that. So that's my take on that. The second thing that I think we need to do is to look at how we can legitimately and appropriately provide the support funding in this transition period. Because I think that's how we all went into this to begin with. I don't think we've washed our hands. I think we all wanted to do that. So I appreciate the fact that staff is willing to work with you all to identify how, in fact, we can make it through this transition period. This is a time right now that everybody's going, woe is me, woe is me. Whether you fall on one side of the stage or the other side of the stage, everybody's going, oh my God, let's not be that way. Let's think that due to the minds that are in the room, the minds of the professional staff, and the commitment that we have to serving a population which needs to be served, and we all have a strong commitment to do that, that we're going to make it through this. 3 years, we'll be in a much better situation. I just believe that. I think that we need to believe that collectively, and I think we need to move together to make it through this transition period, which we knew was going to exist. So, sorry, soapbox.
Great.
Barry, you haven't spoken yet. I'll give you an opportunity before I go around again.
No, I think a lot of good points were made. A lot of the same point was made over and over. Peter's projections are there. There's always going to be more need than money available for this kind of stuff. I do it every year with the Community Development Grant Board too. So if you got to pare your givings away for a year or two, it's going to happen. So hopefully we can make that not happen so that it hurts too much.
Okay. Carolyn?
So quite a few things have been said, and I think I was going to try to respond to some of them. So when you talk about 2 or 3 years, where are you thinking that they're going to be? 10, 12 million at that point?
I'm thinking in about 3 years, it'll be about 10.8.
Okay.
Right? But that's with a cautious and predictable support of the surplus that's being generated right now. Okay. Right? So, no, in addition to that, so you have 10.8 from sales tax in about 3 years. We don't know. We don't know, but I think it's going to be in that range. But with the cautious and deliberate utilization of the other millions that are being generated right now, we can layer that on top. I'm really looking forward to that opportunity. We haven't done that yet, so we can kind of show how this can work over the next 36, 48 months.
Okay. So and I think, and that's what I'm thinking too. I mean, like, that's what I'm trying to get at, because what I'm hearing is, and I think it is, in fairness, I think we keep saying, well, we only have a couple months. We have enough data to know where we're starting. I get that comment that we don't have enough data, we need a couple more months. Just hear me out, because I'm
agreeing with you.
Right.
Right,
but I think, but that doesn't mean it's with.
I know, my frustration is I feel like, I'm interrupting.
no, I think,
We're trying to solve a problem, but we haven't been really afforded the opportunity to lay out a multi-year strategy.
that's my point.
Yeah.
So this is not a criticism. What I want to stop doing is stop pretending that we don't know where we are. We don't need 3 or 4 more months of data to figure out where we are, okay? I'm just saying, because we keep saying that. We know where we are. We're not where we thought we would be, right? In 3 years, we're gonna be even to where we were this year, right? So that's not really what we were expecting. So, couple things. The increase in the sales tax is a possibility. There's a waiting period, but that's something that would be longer term, right, as an option. The idea that do you need 20 million? I want two things that keep coming up for me. One, I know we will never have enough money to solve everything. We will, and what we hear constantly is there's more need than we have money. There's more need, more need, more need. And what that does is it creates kind of frustration on the other side that says, well, we'll never be able to meet that need. So then there becomes pushback. So we need to stop. We need to stop saying that to focus on what we're doing, because 20 million, given the fact that we don't have inpatient care in this county and people are sending their kids to New York and out of state, 20 million would be great because we could start really taking care of people here if that was something that the voters and the taxpayers were willing to support with a slightly increased sales tax. I don't know, but I think there is need out there. So we have to kind of put that aside when we're trying to figure out how we're gonna deal with the situation we have right now, right? And so, because like Larry even said, we're never gonna make everything, and maybe we never get to that higher sales tax and we deal with what we have. But looking at, depending, and if you do it, you're at 11.4 in 2028, depending on what kind of interest rates you're using. If I look at the history of the CST, the county sales tax, the county tax, which is just unincorporated, and the RTA. So the county sales tax from 23 to 24 increased 4%. That's really good, The RTA increased 5%. So maybe we'll see over the next year or two that we're estimating too low and we get there faster. And maybe there are ways that we can consider taking those programs that are county programs and bringing them in-house. Maybe over time we can figure out a way that our police social worker is something that we handle in-house, because it's actually, in some ways, it's saving money in that we reduce the amount of times we're at those doors. Maybe there's a way we can make that work. The specialty courts is a much bigger deal, but maybe there's something there. But I think that there's good faith commitment, I feel, for those of us who are, that we're gonna make this work.
Just so you know, Carolyn, we have a grant writer. We hired a grant writer last year. The grant writer, I think, don't quote me exact on the figure, I think brought in $1.2 million for your specialty courts in a grant.
Yeah, no, I mean, yes.
So I'm just saying.
No, and those are things that, and there's other ways to look at funding for that too, right? So, but we need to, let's just focus on what we can do.
Okay. Is there anyone else? Okay, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
Edmund, thank you for putting this together.
Appreciate the discussion.
Advance McHenry County.
Thank you.
I sent out the update to everybody yesterday afternoon. So I don't know if anybody has questions on that. And we did get the reimbursement from YMCA. And it looks like they're gonna be okay. I mean, do you guys have questions? Do you want us to go over anything specific on where we're at right now? Or do you want to just start in on
Well,
the reallocations?
Well, I think, okay, so first let's just go through the public projects. And are there, before we had talked about some concerns with some of them, how are we coming along on those concerns?
So one of them that I had, the main concern was IMAC. We are working together. They are getting all their reimbursements in. We've come to a happy place where everybody is good. So my concerns, I don't have any more concerns with them.
Okay. All right.
The other one was not necessarily a concern, but Rosecrans. Their project is performing better than anticipated, so they do not need all of their funds. So we talked, and they are, they don't need about $195,000 of their funds, so that would have to be reallocated.
Okay. I'm just writing a note here.
I'm confused because if we only allocated $158,000.
No, I already took it out of there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I already took it out. They had like 3,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
Okay.
And then there's the Ailes Foundation, the union, that was the housing development in Woodstock. They were not approved for their additional funding through the state, I believe the state. So they can't use the ARPA money.
So we have 1.92 that's coming back to us because
Yes.
their project wasn't approved.
For which one, I'm sorry?
The Ailes Foundation.
Oh, okay.
It's the die-cast workforce housing.
So they're still doing the other phases, they're just not doing this phase.
Yes.
It's a 3-phase project, they're still gonna do 2 and 3.
Okay. Are there any others that we should be looking at or worried about?
Everybody else, their projects are going. Some of them have had a slower start, but they are proceeding, and I don't see any issues with any of the other ones.
Okay. So again, just for information purposes, because this has already been allocated, we've been told that because it's allocated, we can then reallocate it for some reason it's not spent, but we have to reallocate it in the same bucket by which they were originally in. So, I guess what we're trying to get to is a cleanup at the December county board meeting so that we're allocating everything that we know about to allocate because we don't have restrictions at that point if it's allocated before the end of this year, so December basically. But once that happens, we have to be careful going forward to reallocate dollars because it has to be in the same bucket. Does that make sense to everybody? Go ahead.
What's like, you say bucket, public or county?
No, like this Ailes thing, we're 1.92, let's just say that were to have happened next year, right? And they were to come back and say, sorry, we can't use that. Well, now we have to use that 1.9 for that specific bucket of some type of workforce housing type project.
It has to be within the same expenditure category, so the scope of the project has to be similar.
Okay.
Right.
To what the originally approved project was.
Right. That's much better said, thank you.
It can be difficult.
Expenditure category.
Well, correct. So when you're dealing with something that large, I mean, if it's 100,000, it's probably not as difficult as almost $2 million. So, this is.
Pay
the bill.
So that's why it's really important and that, Carrie's been doing a great job of scrubbing all this because, right now we have the latitude to be able to reappropriate those dollars anywheres, public or private, but I mean, we have that flexibility. Come January 1st, we lose that. So it's important to get this, I don't want to say correct, but as good as we can, right?
And this is already November, so we got an issue.
Correct.
Okay, so I'm sorry, you just said something I missed. So anything that we know of that if we do it before December, if we can reallocate it anywhere and starting in January, it has to be within the same expense category?
Yes.
Okay,
Correct.
sorry.
Yep.
Thank you.
Don't you have expense category in your spreadsheet?
Yeah, but
We can resend it, but
Yeah.
for viewing, to see it laid out like this, it's a little easier, but we can send
I can
it.
resend it to everybody so you can see the expense categories.
Sure.
So the Long Meadow Bridge, did you ever get a bill or a request for payment from Kane
We're
County?
working on that one. It's,
We did receive a bill. Yes.
We've been working with Bronner to make sure that it stays a low risk expense.
it's important that Kane asks for the reimbursement in the correct way.
Yes, got it.
We're
Not just give me.
working.
Yeah.
I've talked with Sheriff Bureau more than once, and their version of Scott Hennings is becoming friends with you.
Yes. We talked quite a
Hopefully
bit.
it's pleasant to Scott Hennings.
Okay, so, oh, sorry, you have a question?
So with that 1.9 million and the rest of it, what's our procedure to make sure this happens before the end of the year?
So that's the next conversation we're going to.
Okay?
Because that's 2.115 million, right?
Yes,
Yep,
that, yes,
and we
that would have
got
to be.
even more than that, so.
Yeah.
Go on to the next process.
Yes, hold on, I'll put it up on the screen. I was looking for the printout.
Oh, well, I know there's more money.
I got more.
More than 3.3 million?
Well, no, I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have more than.
Just a printout of what's coming.
I don't see it.
Oh, so you can.
Oh, that's gonna be over there.
What's that? Oh, you're so nice.
I think it's going
Oh, got it.
That's what
That's a
they're
good headache
at.
this morning.
There's actually more than
Yeah,
that.
there's,
Because
some of them, not everything was even allocated, so.
Right.
That was so nice.
How are we gonna get to that point? We know how much money is there. Because it's coming to the end here, right?
Right, so
Is what
we
you
know how
plan on?
much, we just, we
Yeah. So I don't
gotta
have to
figure out
try
what
it.
we're doing.
But if we're a little off, to have to put it in the same bucket is okay if it's 50 grand, not if it's 1.9 million, right?
This was not the.
Well, right, and we're, again, I asked the question earlier, can we over allocate in anticipation?
That was
And
no, right?
it was a,
Strongly frowned upon.
yeah. It wasn't a flat out no, it was a, you probably shouldn't.
It doesn't
What was
bother me a
that?
bit, but if they don't like it, I don't care.
What was that? We missed it down here.
So we were not,
There was, the question was about over allocating so that you make sure you capture everything.
oh yeah, I wanted to do that, and the answer was no, you can't do that, right?
Well,
yes.
the answer was
Strongly
you weren't
discouraged.
supposed to do that, and I said, it's kind of like the state's attorney, you have to ask for permission, you can't just do it and then ask for forgiveness, so it's,
Yeah, so yeah.
Why not?
He left,
We wanted to-
Norm's not even here anymore.
Oh, he's not even here.
I don't know why not. What do we care if they don't like it?
Screen, Dan?
It doesn't bother me.
Well,
It's okay.
I think we can easily take care of things, so.
So I think the challenge has been, there's a lot of moving parts. Some of this could have implications when we talk about the budget next. And then there's no committees in December or anything. So that's kind of why we're having this discussion now as we try to get everything in one spot. So,
I haven't canceled finance.
oh. With no one on it though?
What?
well, whatever.
I haven't been told to cancel finance,
You won't have any
so-
finance committee members.
I'll hear about it. We have 5 members still.
No, but I mean, they're not members. Are they still members until they're not members anymore?
Pretty much.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Until the Committee on Committees reappoints people to committees, then it's still, your committee is still your committee theoretically, assuming you have enough people to have a committee. And we would have 5, so we would have enough.
Okay, I'm
That's a
sorry.
great linguistic paragraph.
Committee is what I heard.
Yes.
So
I'm not an
I
English
wanted to
guy.
start the discussion, so you can think about it for December.
Sure.
So matching up with what Carrie handed out, these are kind of the areas, so this is the county piece that's left, 38,000, which I think we can just put it together with anything else we decide. So the unallocated funds from fiber, that is currently sitting in the public column on the worksheet that was just handed out. We have some ideas with how to use that money, which would move it over to the county side. And really this one I think it could go either way. But again, implications with the budget, and how we want to move forward, that may be a number that we can use for that.
Yeah, what Carrie said is powerful, that it could have easily been either one, whether it was public or county. We were kind of anticipating building a publicly owned ring to serve private entities.
Yes.
So it was kind of attractive to put it on the public side, but it really was a county expense anyways that we were looking to cover, so.
But also at this point, if you kind
We don't
of
need it.
shift it a little and think if we move to the county side, that could have potential impacts on, future tax levies maybe. So that's why I think it kind of fits in either.
Well, but then
it's-
again, that's a paradigm shift from what the current board has stated, is that half will be used for public, half will be used for private.
That's why we broke it out here to make clear
Right, so I'm just
that-
saying that the board would have to recognize that we're making that paradigm shift. And acknowledge that and agree that that's the shift we want to make.
At this point, yeah, the board have to say that at this point, with all that we've done and all we know, it's better used over here.
And we're
And
trying
that's
to lay
fine, I'm
out
just-
all the options without making it like too many options, right? So then the public is the ALs plus the 195 from Rosecrans. So really, we've talked a lot about this. The absolute easiest way to do it, these are all the water sewer projects, if you guys remember talking about these. And a lot of them, right,
None of them were awarded the full amount.
yeah. So if we went back and funded the full amount that was requested for these water sewer projects, that would use up all the remaining dollars.
Well, we wouldn't be able to still fully fund them. There's still a shortfall.
By 70,000.
Yeah, slight. But most of them could be fully funded.
Okay.
But then a couple of other things we talked about, and this is where I'm saying it impacts the budget, is some of the things we currently have either sitting in the FY25 capital or stuff that we kind of see coming on the horizon. One of them is the health department project that went through the consent agenda today. That is, so the way I've been kind of describing it is, it's one project, I think, in like the project manager's eyes, but it's really 2 projects with funding. So the health department has their piece that's coming out of the 7.5, and then there's this roof project. But I know Tom said, he's like, we're not gonna go out to bid and have someone bid on the roof for the new drive-through, but then someone else bid on the rest of the roof. So this project makes sense to move from our capital plan and into ARPA, assuming that some of these dollars from the fiber, we would move from the public side to the county side. And then another thing, and this one's a little harder because we're in the middle of doing a space study, but we do know that there is a need for space specifically in the courts, and state's attorney and public defender. And one of them would be to purchase the building where the special courts are currently housed. It's right across from it's in between the treasurer and the workforce building.
We own the two buildings on either side.
Yes.
We lease space in the middle.
And right now, the special courts occupy about half of the building.
Scott stepped away, but
In the middle part or what?
It's a 8,125 square foot building, I think.
And this is not a certain thing, but it's something we've definitely started to explore. We've talked a little bit with the owner. You heard Connie reference $1.2 million grant that we heard. That is adding staff. We're kind of crunched now for what we're doing over there. So Scott, we're talking about your 500 Russell. 400 Russell. But
They only want 400,000 for it now? That's great.
The address is.
Also too, as the space study, I guess, is completed, this also gives us options as the current tenants on the other half, as their lease expires. Gives us some opportunity for kind of another piece in the board, the board as we're moving things around. So
we don't have to decide that now, but we have to just understand that it's an option.
correct.
Right.
Well, and are you gonna bring up the issue that we have with the replacement?
The replacement.
The replacement dollars that were over?
The revenue replacement? Well, that is still an open issue. So Carrie's gonna meet with Bronner
I met with
to try
Bronner.
to move some projects. And then there hasn't been a lot of clarity in what the actual amount is that we can use for revenue replacement. We disagree. So we're trying to get some clarification from Baker Tilly, and it really comes down to, is it an average of the years over COVID, or can we pick the highest?
Well, so the problem is that the guidelines have, well, if you don't really know, I'll just say what we think we know. But the guidelines state how much you can do revenue replacement for, and we're over that amount.
And the calculation is based on your revenue from pre-COVID years, and then your revenue, I think it's for 2021 and 22. There's a big formula worksheet, and so that's the question is, can we take the highest of those 3 years, or do we have to take an average? I think that's like 16 to 18 million is the difference.
Yeah, but the concern that I have is that if we are over based on information, which again, we assumed was the average originally, then we have to rectify that, otherwise that becomes non-compliant, which is a problem. So part of what the discussion that I had with them was, utilizing our space study and figuring out what we needed to either purchase a building or build a building, and that will then we shift that over, and then that rectifies that overage. So it was a kind of a good way to utilize the dollars and also get us compliant. That was the Scala plan I came up with, like 3 months ago that we didn't share till now, I guess, but anyways. So it was a way to be able to meet the needs that we have space-wise and get us compliant. But now you're saying we might be compliant, maybe, sort of, kind of.
I met with Bronner to review the revenue replacement projects. I still have to get some information to them about it. I don't think that we are gonna get ourselves 100% compliant, but I think we're gonna get ourselves a lot closer. There's a handful of projects that we've identified that I think that we can move to different expenditure categories. So we're trying, but I don't think we're gonna be able to get it exactly where we need it.
I mean, we're millions over. It's not like we're just a little bit, so we're.
It depends if it's 16 or 18.
Okay.
So we're at 16, so we're $4 million over.
Yeah.
We're $4 million over.
Well, yeah, it's not quite not quite 4, but a lot, yes. Yeah, a large number.
I think that we will be able to do at least 2 million. But that's if, I just have to clarify some things on the projects. So if it is exactly how I think it is, and they confirm that, then we can do that. But if not, those ones might not be able to be approved.
Yeah.
Can you
Okay.
Can you just tell me a little bit more about what you were thinking about with that building? Because I think I might have missed something reading, but in terms of using those replacement dollars, what were you thinking that we would do?
Well, so we have space needs, right? So that's the issue that we're trying to solve, which is why we push through the space studies so that we would know what our space needs truly were. Whether we build a building or build an addition onto like this building or that building or whatever we do, that will dictate how much space we need, whether it's, 15,000 or 20,000 square feet or whatever, whatever we need. This has come up, 400 Russell has come up as a potential place to purchase, that would start to address some of those space needs. I don't think it's gonna fully address, because it's only 8,125 feet.
8,000 square feet.
I'm off 125, 8,000 square feet. So I don't think that's gonna fully address all of our needs, but it will do a good job of addressing a lot of those needs. So, but either scenario, we can utilize the ARPA dollars to purchase that, get us under the, whether it's 16 or 18 million, so that we're compliant then.
Then that's fully in agreement. Mike Scala's plan would not be an issue with Bronner.
So I think building spaces is a little easier because you can talk about social distancing. It's like the key words of the project.
I see.
As long as, you have to use certain buzzwords.
What is housed in there right now? I mean, I should know, but I don't.
Well, we are
The appellate.
It's our special courts unit is there, along with the state runs a mediation office in a kind of building half is what's consumer credit.
No, they're out. It's State legal on one half of the building, and then the other half is split between office and specialty courts, and then the
State mediation office.
Okay, so we are occupying about half, so we gained some space.
If you count the state, we're less than half. But we're trying to move the state maybe into the courthouse, get that lease changed around, free up some more space, but.
Okay, all right.
Let's think real practically here. I like the idea. I think it's a good idea. It kind of consolidates the campus in a way. We need space. It's a good step in my mind. Question is, can we practically commit to this so that we are meeting that December deadline or not?
Well, we have run this project, talked with Bronner briefly about this. They have given us the okay on it. So it would be just the board passing a resolution for it. And as long as that's done, then it would meet the obligation.
So in terms of the mechanisms or machinery with the change of the board and all that kind of stuff, are we going to practically get this done by December?
I don't think we're gonna get the building purchased. We would have it in the right expenditure category. If the sale doesn't go through,
We still have it in that
we have it in an
category.
expenditure
for-
category where we can use it towards space enhancement.
So that's,
After the space study.
it's the allocation part that we need to do in December. So we could do the allocation in December, whether it's through purchase or building or whatever, you still have to the end of '26 to actually spend it. So, even if we decided, they are asking too much or we don't come to an agreement on a sale price, it would still give us 2 years to theoretically build an addition and spend that money on that addition, which I think is enough time to be able to expend that, because an addition is going to be more than what we're allocating here, so you would be able to utilize that dollar before you utilize other dollars. in my mind, it was a clean way of trying to solve several issues that we're having.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea, frankly, and I would support it overall, but I'm still a little bit edgy. I mean, it's just passing a resolution. Are we going to be able to pass a resolution in December that allocates this money? I think we can get that through the board. Practically, it's
Is there any reason
we
why?
have to educate. I mean, we've got to start with education about ARP funds to begin with 40 members.
Why couldn't we do that now? I mean, we're not.
I'm thinking we can, but I just want to make sure that we can.
Okay.
Practically.
Yeah, I think we can.
Whether we have a special finance meeting or use the slot or use the committee of the whole, I mean, if you think about it, guys, we kind of always have had December of '24 circled as the time we're gonna need to make a final adjustment. It's here.
And I think, you know, if we don't allocate them, then we lose them. So I think that
Right.
is a helpful. And even if there's gonna be a lot of extra discussion, I mean, we can always just allocate it, like I said, to the water sewer that have already been discussed. Just so we make sure that we're not giving any money back.
But then we still have the replacement issue that we're
Correct.
correcting.
Then that would have to be addressed, you know, through general fund capital going forward.
And that's a pain in the, well, I mean, that just, I mean,
I mean,
literally, that
it's-
just adds a level of complication to the
Correct,
situation.
but you know, the primary focus is to get them all out, get all the dollars allocated.
I mean, I mean, to answer your question, I mean, through the years of me being on the county board, even when I first got on the county board, sometimes you gotta trust the people that were
Right.
there, you know, and you just,
But I just think we need to be able to say today as a committee, whether or not, I know we're not gonna vote, but we need to have some kind of consensus that yes, we think this is a practical thing to do. We need to start the wheels moving to get it done.
right, I agree.
I would say yes, I'm in full agreement.
I think it's impractical, just looking at the people that are here, no offense to you guys, I'm sorry, but most of us are here. Yeah, I mean,
I think if we have that commitment, that helps us to kind of move forward, and I'm in full agreement.
and I mean, yeah, me too. Just to throw it at the water and sewer stuff is not where I like.
That's right.
Absolutely.
Okay, so what else do you want to just, you kind of got some,
And I want to say, excuse me, but we still have learned members of the body here, so I want to make sure that you all have, you think that this is the right way to go.
Well, I mean, I have been worried, actually I've been around, although I wasn't on finance committee the first 2 years of ARPA applications, I've been worried about this deadline all of these years. So, yeah, it needs to be, I mean, it needs to be allocated, and it needs to be allocated safely. Like, we don't want any minimize the risk as much as possible, right? So like, I kind of wonder, how did we get over on revenue replacement when there was in March? Like, why did we try to do another? I know you don't want to say 4 million, but $4 million over in that category in the first place.
So I think to be fair, those were really allocated right at the very beginning, and I think, you know, the U.S. Treasury has a lot of final rules, and so maybe it wasn't clear. It was, we were not as involved at the beginning.
we're blaming Kevin on that.
No, I'm not blaming. I'm only blaming U.S. Treasury.
Well, things changed a lot.
Yes, I mean,
Rules
things are even
changed
still
rules.
changing, and so, you know, I don't think it's bad. If anything, it's just deferred some expense to the general fund, you know, even have to move it back, so.
So I guess if we're going forward with this, is the committee also comfortable with changing the paradigm shift of the public-private sector split?
Yes.
Yes?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right,
Yes.
I'm saying not, so.
So is the recommendation for the fiber to be used for the health department roof and the special courts, and then the public side from Ailes and Rosecrans to go to water sewer?
No, to a building.
You want all of it, all 4 million to a building?
To a building. 400, Russell?
Well,
He's saying an advanced building addition, maybe, whatever, right?
yeah, I don't know. again, even if we were to buy 400 Russell, that's not gonna solve all of our space needs. We still have space needs, so I think we're, you know, that could be a part of the short-term picture, you know, because we could purchase that and get it, you know, take ownership of that early in 25, but we still have space needs that we're gonna have to deal with going forward from that.
So, these type of projects, when you go over $1 million, there's a lot more red tape and,
That's why we have it at
different
990 up
issues.
there.
So, like purchasing the building or building a new building, you really wanna keep it under, $1 million, if we can.
Well, how is that possible? I mean, I appreciate you telling us this because I didn't realize that, but I mean.
We prefer not to use more than $990 of ARPA money on the acquisition of the building. Perhaps the second project could be remodeling the building in some manner after we acquire it. Because we are going to need to spend money inside of the building and making it our own.
Or inside the courthouse.
Or inside the courthouse, after we move people around.
Carrie's still twitching. I'm not trying to put you on the spot. I think
we used ARPA dollars effectively early on to remodel the probation entry area.
Yes.
Beautiful.
Yes.
We loved it. Ronner loved it. Seems to me we could go down that path again.
The problem is that things are getting harder and harder to fit into these expenditure categories. And I've talked with Bronner on a lot of different things, and I know sometimes it makes sense to us that it should fit into there, but trying to tie it back, it doesn't. So it just makes me nervous, and I would rather take the public side and reallocate it to the water sewer. I think that's safer.
Okay. So what would you, so hearing all this discussion, what would your recommendation be?
My recommendation would be to take the funds from fiber, move that to the county side with that, and then that $38,000 that has to be reallocated, add the health department roof project onto the county side, and then the remaining amount go towards the special courts purchase, the building purchase.
Okay.
And then the public portion be reallocated to the water sewer.
And that's 2 million.
Yeah.
A little over 2 million.
And we don't have to make a decision on who gets what on water sewer. We just need to put it in that expenditure category. We also have another municipality that has water sewer issues that could have an economic development benefit to us. Well, we can talk about that later.
I'm sorry, what was that?
There is another municipality with dire water sewer
Okay.
needs, you know, so the next finance committee can talk about whether we want to reopen that whole allocation process or use the applicants we've had.
Got it, sorry.
I think we should support the recommendation.
Can I ask one question?
Sure.
So 1.9 of that was the ALs. Are there any other workforce housing projects in the area that could use the money? Since we have had the whole, the committee and the write-up and all of that, just wondering if we could put our money where our mouth is somewhere.
So I guess that that's a decision because we've kind of stuck with, if there wasn't an application through the initial process, you know, and then we start picking, well, this project has come up, this project has come up, like another municipality, you know, if you kind of want to open it up to reevaluate, there is a project that was brought forward, but it was brand new to us.
That's the, as Brian puts it, that's a Pandora's box that I don't know that we want to go down because that's, to me, that's kind of problematic. Like we're, you know, Project X that just came to us, well, what happened to Project Y and Z that they didn't come to us because they didn't think it was open, you know, and how did we suddenly just pick Project X? I mean,
I understand that. I was just thinking about
same category.
I mean, unless
I
you
understand
want to allocate that to workforce housing and then open it up and say we have this amount.
This is sort of my thought on the water sewer.
Bring the
We could reopen
project,
a water
yeah.
sewer in early '25.
We don't have a budget for workforce housing, so
I'm sorry?
it's not, we don't have a budget allocated to workforce housing based on that project that was looked at, so.
The Ales, no, so we would, that's what we're talking about, reallocating, yeah. But if we just left it as is, when we get to January, it would stay in the bucket, so I guess.
No, I'm all for reallocating it.
Okay.
Bringing up workforce housing at this point, unless, introducing new things, it's not appropriate. Waste of our time.
Okay, so Carrie pointing out a recommendation that she would do so that she feels comfortable and she can sleep at night.
But we don't want any findings. That's our
Yes.
goal.
No, right, and we don't either, trust me. So how does the committee feel about that? Yes?
I feel we need to find out something definitive, whether we can use it into the building category or if it has to go to water and sewer. Just to put it in water sewer because it's safer or easier doesn't sit well with me.
It does not have to go to water sewer.
It does not have to. It can go.
That was your suggestion, because it would be safer.
Yes, there's
Lower
less, there's lower risk going into the water sewer.
What is the risk? I mean, I don't get that. Either
The
we
risk-
know or we don't know.
The risk is that it doesn't, any new projects that we try to spend it on, we cannot get to fit into the correct expense bucket.
So if we put it into a building expense kind of thing, they could come back and say that money's there, but we can't use it for that because it's not correct. Is
So
that-
we would have already used it and they'll come back and say that you weren't supposed to use it for that, so therefore we're gonna call that back.
Yeah.
That would be the problem.
So you would prefer to get it all into a category that we could use for our space needs?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Well, and again, we're having this discussion, I personally think we should still have finance in December.
Yes.
So I don't,
Okay.
we can flush this out a little bit more after she gets, that's why we're trying to provide direction to them as to what to do, so.
Gives us time.
Can we at least settle on some things? Health Department roof project, everybody good with that one?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And then the idea of the purchase of the special courts building, everybody supportive of that one?
Yes.
Well,
You should know.
Are you like, no, I really,
I'm supportive of it, but I mean, it has to
Okay.
has to fit into our budget.
I know, but all I'm saying is, with this extra funds, if we have, are we supportive of that right now? Everybody seems to be saying yes. So we got that put down. Now the next question is whether it's the sewer projects, water sewer projects, or whether it's expansion project, right? That's kind of the iffy one, yeah.
Yeah, so the
Got the other
2.1,
two cleaned up.
so the 2.1 also, then all of that money would be moving from the public side to the county side.
Yep, and we already said, everyone said we
Okay.
didn't have a problem with that. Okay. Are there any other questions that you guys have about this? Carrie's ready to go. She's like, I'm out of here.
As long as you don't say put it in revenue replacement, that's a no.
I guess I agree with it. Are there any other capital projects that we could move it to health department because?
No, we looked.
You already, okay.
Yes. I said, I think a parking lot sounds like COVID money. It was a strong no.
Coroner's office, no?
Charging stations, no.
Okay.
It was a quick no, I should say.
Okay. All right, we're on to 9.3, 25 budget. So we were gonna talk about, so one of the things that I had asked when Carrie and I were talking was the two FOP contracts that we just passed through on consent. So that was, Staff didn't think that that was gonna be coming this quickly. They didn't think that we would settle those. So the question was how we're going to deal with them. And I said, well, if we know about them before we're passing the budget, then we should put that as, into the budget. I mean, instead of doing emergency appropriation in January, why, oh, thank you, why do that? So I asked them to incorporate that into the budget adjustments that, we normally read in because there's little adjustments to what's out on display. So that's what we're doing with that. And then my next question was, well, how did we budget for the FOP contracts that we just got done approving? So I'll let you explain all that.
So the merit in the budget, in the resolution. The 3.5% merit was included in the budget, and the market adjustment for each of the units was not. So that's on this budget adjustment worksheet. The market adjustment as well as the impact of FICA and IMRF. And then the other adjustments are just what we talked about with mental health. So I guess to answer your question, because I think
historically, I guess this is an opportunity to congratulate Suzanne, the sheriff's negotiation team. They got serious really fast with mature contracts. We're not gonna go back and forth month after month after month, and if we stay really low, they stay really high. The sheriff's negotiation teams for both corrections and patrol got serious really fast. This is the first time in many, many contracts we've not gone down to the threat of binding arbitration or binding arbitration. If we had gone the way we normally go, it would be April, May. We go to binding arbitration, we probably get a deal not this good, and we foster some ill will. So I'm excited we got it this year, but it is an awkward time. If we had gone down to May, we would have passed this. This is the cost of business, and we would have figured it out, and we would have used utilization of fund balance. And it's, I guess, essentially what is proposed here. This is a cost of business. This is really not an avoidable cost. It's just what we got to do. It's not even really a policy decision.
No, it's not, but it just goes back to the whole budget issue that we're having with, we're utilizing fund balance. We haven't even started the fiscal year yet. We're utilizing fund balance for a reoccurring expense that's gonna happen and grow year over year over year, and it's very concerning. And again, everything you just said, I 100% agree with, but it's.
And I've had this battle in my brain the last couple nights laying in bed. Carrie and I kind of presented fiscal 25 budget. We had some reoccurring expenses, IT contracts and election judge increases, that we kind of just felt like these are just a cost of business. We put them in the supplementals, but we really need to kind of tie them to some new money. And that was the proposed partial increase in the levy, using some of what's available in the CPI. The other was the 3 deputies. That was a genuine policy decision. Do we want to add 3 new deputies to our team? I think it was a resounding yes. How much, this is different in the sense that it's just kind of it probably would have come during the middle of the year and we would have just sucked it up and made it happen. But I'm kind of proposing to act like it did happen during the middle of the year, but it's not. So it is fund balance, period.
Yeah. You want to share the other great news about our loan? Or are you going to do that in your report thing? About the...
Oh, if I could?
Yeah.
Yeah, after you guys approved the consent agenda, I was like, oh, we thought we were going to talk about that. I guess it's just, like you said, it's the cost of doing business for the FOP. I think it's important to have it while we're having the broad budget discussion, because if it was just that on its own, you know, I think our fund balance is definitely healthy enough to absorb those things. But as we're talking about budget, and it's more and more, the answer is rely on fund balance, rely on fund balance. I think, you know, as our costs are going up, our revenues are leveling, we're going down. You know, we're starting to see some real impacts on the funds specifically that relate to personnel. So the FICA fund wasn't able to make payroll, I think, starting in, it was pretty early last fiscal year, January maybe. So, you know, we talked a lot when we looked at the different levies, you know, that one is requiring a higher levy amount just to make the FY25 payroll that we're projecting. So, you know, we're gonna have to talk about that one every year and get it to a point where it can sustain payroll for 6 months, pay back the loan to the general fund to make payroll, you know, and then as well as any other of the current liabilities for the year. So I think that's where there starts to be a little bit more of a sense of urgency. You know, all these funds are really, you know, I think we're very thoughtful with how we use fund balance.
Be aggressive
yeah.
in keeping these as low as actually possible, and this is the fallout is sometimes we miss on, like we did on the FICA.
Yes, and you know, I think
And the mid-year increases that we do, you know,
it affects
real.
it. Because IMRF will, I think, has like a 3-month reserve we're projecting. So that's another one that we're gonna be watching, but the rates have been low. Lost my train of thought.
Well, so again, just bringing this up as a point of discussion, but I mean, yes, you've been doing a really good job of trying to keep fund balances lean, but this is a situation where we run into, and part of the reason why we have to deal with this is because it goes between fiscal years. So if we simply do a loan to ourselves from one to another in the same year but pay it back, then it's fine. But once it goes outside of fiscal year, then the board has to take action on it in order to quote unquote approve that, so.
Yeah, and I really wanted to bring this one forward because I think the FICA fund probably it's close to enough to pay back the general fund for this year. But then starting in December, it would immediately have to start borrowing. So I felt like it was a little, like it wasn't being as transparent.
It's disingenuous because you're.
So, and also it's not really addressing the issue, so that's why we have that one.
Do you have anything else on the budget?
I do not.
No, you know, we've had a couple board members ask some information on vacant positions, provided that, and capital, provided that. Not had any directions on developing any alternative as to what this committee voted and approved a month ago. And, you know, as we helped the chairman's message that was delivered last Friday in email, if there are alternatives, we really appreciate hearing about those ahead of time so we can prepare for the committee and be thoughtful about what those alternatives might be, and we're not just shooting from the hip. It's a difficult movement when we had a $260 million budget, and to do that on the board floor is a challenge.
Okay. Anything from committee?
Yes.
Brian?
I just want to clarify where we are with this market adjustments then for our staff based upon the approved contracts now, negotiations. So the question that I have is that's $2.576,341, right? Almost $6 million, right?
For the increases?
Yeah, that includes mental health.
So the increases, I think we have just built in to our regular budget. It's the market adjustment, so the,
That's this page, mark adjustment.
like 1.3.
It's 1.4.
Well, you have the, yeah, that'd be 1.4, that's right. Yeah. Okay, if we don't include that, mental health, board funded.
Yeah, so 1.4, that's the salary, and then FICA and IMRF. The total of that is 1.66.
Okay.
Where are you on this?
So did we settle the issue whether we're going to include that in the budget? We're going to change the budget? Or are we going to plan for this as supplemental?
This is proposed to be read in, every year, we in the final month, there's final budget adjustments, and that's read in by the chair of finance. That's what's proposed.
Okay, so that will
So
be
this will
included
be
in
in
the
the
budget.
budget, right?
Correct.
That was what I
That's all right.
I was asked that question, and I said, yeah, it should be. We know about it before. We should put it in, So,
Great, thank you.
okay, Carrie?
Three things. You were talking about suggestions for where the adjustments are made in the budget. So that's what the board's looking to you to give examples of where adjustments can be made in the budget. So we're still looking for that.
So, but Terry, can I stop? The board gave me
Always do.
direction. The finance committee gave me direction. You voted on this a month ago.
Thank you. And I also requested it a month ago. And then when it comes to the cow, and we're discussing this budget that we're going to be voting on, if the budget is adjusted that night, will it have to go out for another 30-day posting? Because a year ago you told us it would.
You asked me that question via email, and I did respond. No, the answer is no. It does not need another 30-day review. That's what I told you.
Just wanted to get it clarified. Then my last question is, should this budget be passed as it is now, and then in December, is it possible for a new board to pull back the budget and redo the budget?
Make amendments to the budget.
So that is a possibility.
Can you adjust the levies, the ordinances?
Can we find out? Can we find out? Because it's important.
You can ask the state's attorney.
And again, people are in dire situations right now with this economy. It hasn't changed.
Talk to them. I'm not setting the levy.
We are the one that's voting.
Looking to you for the.
Tammy, you understand, this is a policy decision.
Right, I mean, I think to maybe to some point that you didn't say, but I will say, every department came through committee with their full budget. That was the time for the county board members to say, this needs to cut, this needs to cut. We spent 2 months going through committee meetings where everybody had to come and show us their budget. So it's not Peter and Carrie's job to tell us where to cut. That was why they came through for 2 months. And so that was when the board members said, this is what we're cutting. This is a policy issue, it's not staff's job. And I think that's maybe something that hasn't been pointed out before, but that's the point of the budget discussions.
Well, I pointed it out, I know that, but I mean,
And we've said multiple times, if we want to cut, then we need to tell them the direction where we want to cut. We may be the policy people, but we've approved all the budgets in the departmental meetings. And we can't just say cut 3% off the board because we need to give them direction on where to cut. So I know that people want to cut the budget, but do we want them to make the decision that we don't have 3 sheriff's officers or that we cut funding for the public health department? That is not something we want them to make the decision because we, as a board, are voting on the fiscal policy of the county. So we are the ones who should be determining where the money's flowing.
So I'm one voice on this committee, and I've been very clear.
You have been, but
over. And last year, I spent probably 64 to 80 hours meeting with Carrie and Pete I built my case, I presented it to the board, it was completely ignored, and it was actually correct. And we don't need, like, we've either got a spending problem or a revenue problem. We don't have a revenue problem. We don't need to increase taxes. And of all times in the economy, this is the time that we need to make these changes on our spending habits.
With all due
So-
respect, that's your opinion.
Why would I? It wasn't my opinion last year. I had hard data. And I said, why would I do their work again? And again, one member on this committee. And just, it doesn't matter.
We all did work.
So-
We all did a lot of work and
I
examined.
disagree.
But we just had a different opinion than you. And it's okay that we have a different opinion. It's okay that we didn't take the work you did. Because that's why there's many different types of people on the board, so we can all have different opinions.
Your answer is to constantly go to the taxpayers and
No.
take more of their money.
It's
Well,
not.
that's your history. I'm just saying.
It's
So-
political, but let's not, please.
Okay. So, is there any more on the budget itself?
Now, again, to try to get into the sheriff's, and the chairman's message last Friday, if there are things you want us to look at, or have something on paper for the committee, we can do that. But at this point, I've not had any other suggestions.
All
So
right,
you're basically looking for what specifically you would cut, I mean, and how you would make that work. I mean, I think that that's what we've always asked people to do,
Yep.
right?
correct.
I mean, if we go with the if we're looking at with the scenario one, which is the 3% reduction, these are the things that don't get funded. So we don't fund the capital plan, and we don't fund the supplementals. I mean, that's basically what's being said here, right? Unless there is some other information provided that would show that you could still fund those things and do something else instead. That's what I'm guessing.
Fund the 3 additional police officers.
And fund that, and then a year ago, we said we would fund the state's attorneys and the salary increases, and we all agreed to increase the salaries for the public defenders.
Just like we just did with the FOP.
Exactly.
Correct.
Okay, reports? Do you have anything? Okay, that's fine. Economic development, Wednesday is the annual dinner. So I know the deadline theoretically passed, but I bet you if you were to call them and beg and plead, they would find a seat for you. Dan Hampton is the guest speaker, so it should be exciting. He's gonna weave some of the nostalgia of '85 in with how businesses can be functioning at a better level, so should be exciting. National McHenry County?
Yes, as you may recall, we had reported on the National McHenry County is going to be looking for a new home as the lease will expire with Huntley in March. The executive board met, looked at some options, and the recommendation to move forward will be with space in the old courthouse on the square. So that now needs to be approved by the full board, but that is where things.
Newly remodeled space.
Newly remodeled space, high visibility, very, very accessible to a lot of activities. So.
The old county seat. Okay, naturally. All right, sounds good. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn at 10:40.
Yep.
Kelly, Brian, all those in favor say